Boy, do I have so many questions. So here's my first thought. I'll get to how this is not appropriate, unacceptable for police officers. I'll get to that part in a minute. But the first question I have is like, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ryan Tillman Show. And man, for those of you guys that have been with me for a long time, you guys know that I do a lot of different things. I have people on this channel that have come to you or come to this channel because of my viral dance video that you guys may have seen years ago, which is still crazy that it hit as many views as it did. We've had people come to us for Switch, which is where we switch the roles between law enforcement and civilians, which is actually really entertaining. So if you haven't checked that out, check out our playlist. We've also had people come to us from our old podcast, the It's Needed podcast, where we bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community, and so many other reasons. If you don't know, if you're not aware, I'm also running for governor of California. Some of you guys may be asking, okay, why am I bringing all this up? Well, I started realizing, I said, people come to me because I at least believe that you guys value my opinion on certain things. And so over the course of the next few months, what we're going to start doing is we're going to start giving you more day-to-day information on trending topics, what's going on culturally, maybe as it relates still to law enforcement, maybe as it relates to what's going on politically speaking. Just because, number one is I do too have my own opinion, and people always ask me what's my opinion on things. But number two, I think most of you guys that are on my channel, you guys want somebody that's balanced and somebody that's not going to be so extreme. I think there's a lot of extreme people out there, some good, some bad, but there's not enough balance. And, in my searching and talking to people on a lot of different topics, whether it be culturally, politically, from a law enforcement standpoint, I believe a lot of us are more so in the middle, maybe a little middle left, maybe middle right, but a lot of us are in the middle, and there's no real place to go for middle of the line news to get the real unbiased, authentic opinion, at least how it's presented. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to give you guys, so what we're going to do is I'm going to watch some videos that are trending, which would be great. Some are funny, some are a little bit more serious. I'm going to give you guys my uncut reels, raws reaction, give you guys my personal thoughts about it. And then, but most importantly, what I need you guys to do is we continue to grow this channel, which is quite, interesting to me. I mean, we have over 316,000 subscribers. So credit to you guys for subscribing to this channel and sticking with us. But if you believe in this channel, if you believe in me, continue to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave a comment, interact with us because we want to know what we can do better and so forth and so on. But with that being said, I want to get right into it because there's a lot of different stories that I've been kind of watching, and it's quite honestly interesting. From the officer in Mexico, which I don't know if you guys didn't see this video. They'll probably give you guys a little snapshot right here, a little sneak preview. But this officer, let's just say she was getting her freak on. She was getting her swerve on is what I would call it, in the front seat. And kind of the Mexico's version of the recent incident that happened here in the States where the CEO was, got called out by Coldplay. I think it was Coldplay. Yeah, Coldplay, my man Coldplay called him out. So it was Mexico's version. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the officer who was doing the TikTok challenge of, she was going to write some tickets because she didn't get cracked, which I actually had to look up what that meant. Dang, does that mean I'm getting old? Maybe I'm getting old. I don't even know what the lingo is, but she was going to write tickets because she didn't get cracked. But we're going to talk about some more serious stuff, talking about the DC, the extra patrol in DC that President Trump authorized all the way down to ICE. It's going to be a great episode. So like I said, before we get into it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave us a comment. But let's roll right into it. So the first topic I want to talk about is the DC response. And I think I want to talk about this first is because it's probably one of the most trending things that's going on. And a lot of people don't understand, is this right? Is this wrong? Can President Trump do this? Can he not do this? So let's watch the first video, and I'm going to kind of show you some reactions that I've been seeing online. Now, keep in mind, these are reactions that some of my team have sent to me, which has been great, but it's not every single person's reaction, and I'll kind of talk about that here in a second. So let's watch the first video.
But with the National Guards and them coming here, I mean, that's a little too much. I feel safe walking through the city each and every day. I feel safe, so we don't need troops in the city.
I've seen them right here at the subway. They was all lined up right here. They had my street where I live at blocked off yesterday, actually. Me personally, it's a little bit more, I'm more fearful now, with like the National Guard, especially because I'm African American. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I can get pulled over in my car, everything's legit, but I still don't know how that interaction will work out for me.
Most of the time, whenever I feel unsafe, it's when, honestly, I don't know. I like this city. I'm really kind of, I'm trans. This is the only place I've ever lived where I can walk up to people and say that and not have them treat me differently and not feel like I'm in danger for that.
All right, let's just pause it right there for a second. So first and foremost, I'm not trying to discredit, I think this is Local 5 News ABC. And I'm not trying to discredit what these people are saying because maybe in their mind, they do feel safe. But one of the things I always think about when I'm watching videos like this, or at least watching news segments that come from big media outlets, is the information that we're receiving, is it skewed? Like, is it tilted or slanted towards a different perspective? Because there are other segments or there are people that have a different perspective of how it's going. You don't believe me? Let's watch this segment, which is kind of completely opposite of what we just watched. Let's watch this one.
I don't understand it, and I don't think I ever will. Why the is people that's not from the city saying DC's not that bad? Why is a nigga from Denver, Colorado saying DC's not that bad and Trump is just trying to be a dictator? Gang, DC is like Gotham City, bruh. Like, y'all do not know. Y'all out of towners, mo. Mind y'all business, bruh. 4 infants got killed in a month. This shoot is every day. Contact is every day. The city is fucking out right now, bruh. And it might say it's the lowest as ever been. That's because these is not getting caught. There's so much going on.
This is a kicker coming up.
Y'all don't
Watch
even know, bruh. I'm really recovering from getting shot in DC, gang. So for y'all out of towners to be like DC's not that bad and this don't need to be done, y'all don't know shit, bruh.
I think my favorite part about that video was the violin music in the background, or piano music, whatever it was. But the kicker is my man that got shot in DC, and his perspective was completely different from the people that ABC chose to interview. So my thought is like, okay, well, did ABC just go out there? Did they interview a lot of people and they just chose to interview the people that said that there's no violence? Or is that really truly the sentiment, the overarching sentiment? But regardless of whatever the sentiment is, let's actually talk about some real things as to whether or not this can actually happen. And so I like to do research. I want to know where things are coming from. I want to know, well, number one, can Donald Trump do this? Will President Trump do this? And number two, why is he doing this? So right now, we have to understand that there's a difference in Washington, D.C. than there is for other states as it relates to deploying the National Guard. The reason that is because Washington, D.C. doesn't have a governor like every other state does. So if you're talking about any other state, like say California, that's where I'm at, typically the governor would activate the National Guard or deploy the National Guard unless the president felt like, hey, look, no, they need to be deployed, and you have a battle going on like President Trump has with Governor Newsom, and that's, how that could all get superseded. But regardless, I digress. The point is that DC operates a lot differently than any other state. So I want to read some things to you. And, in the state, it says the governor controls the National Guard under Title 32. So if the president wants to take over control, he must federalize the Guard under Title 10 using the Insurrection Act of 1807. So that's how it applies to a state. But it's much different in D.C. So, for example, under the insurrection, or actually, let me go back. So in D.C., it says, since there is no governor, the president already controls the National Guard without having to invoke any Insurrection Act. And so he can activate the Guard directly and unilaterally under District of Columbia Code 49 through 103. But here's the biggest thing, and this is, I think, the most important part. It says the president may order the militia in case of tumult, I think I'm saying that right. If I'm not, don't criticize me, but whatever. I didn't go to school for English. Tumult, riot, mob, insurrection, invasion, pestilence, or the anticipation of any such emergency. So that's when he could activate the National Guard. And so I start doing a little bit more research and trying to figure out how is it that he can activate the National Guard as it relates to this. So if I had to guess, the legal justification for him activating the National Guard was in anticipation of any such emergency. It's very broad. It's written very broad for a reason. So that begs the question, where is crime at? Well, crime is up, but a lot of people will tell you that crime is down. So yes, if you look at the actual statistics in crime right now in DC, crime is down. Like nobody's going to argue that. You can go up there, look at the codes, and that's one of two reasons. Either A, they're not reporting all the crime, and I know that happens a lot across the United States, or B, what's going on is that they're trying to manipulate the numbers to show something that is actually not occurring. This is what I mean. If you look at the numbers, crime is down, yes, but DC is still one of the most violent places in the United States. You don't believe me? Look at the statistics. Right now in DC, you are on average about 39.5 people get killed per 100,000 people. So let's bring that into perspective. If you compare that to the national average is about 6.9 people out of 100,000 people are killed in just in DC or from a national perspective. So DC is a very, very violent place. So even if they say the numbers are down, it still doesn't mean that the place isn't violent. So what am I getting at? This is what I'm getting at is what we're noticing right now, specifically in DC, is this huge pendulum shift. For the last several years, you've had this, decriminalization of a lot of different crimes within the community. You've had this soft on crime approach. People start taking advantage of the system. They start going in there, committing all these crimes, doing all these mobs and going into stores and looting. And then one of the things that's not often talked about is the juvenile problem. You have a lot of juveniles that are going and committing these crimes. And because there's no clear direction on how they handle juvenile cases, a lot of these juveniles get out and they continue to terrorize the community. So it went from this very, very soft on crime approach. And then we got a new president who said, hey, look, I've had enough. It's not going to go down. And I do truly believe a lot of it is also political theater, political posturing. He's trying to send a message. So he comes in and now the pendulum swings far back to the right side and people don't like it. They hate it. So for me, where do I stand on this? Number one is I understand how pendulum swings, and I truly believe that there needs to be a place where the pendulum could come back in the middle for balance. That's what I would like to see happen. But one of the things I cannot understand is why people are mad that there is more presence of law enforcement or the National Guard in their streets. That kind of shows you how deplorable society is coming. You're really mad that people that are there to guard and protect and prevent people from becoming victims they're getting scrutinized because they're out there in the streets doing their job. Like it just makes zero sense to me. The only people that really should be out there protesting and on the front lines and mad as ever that the National Guard is showing up is people that commit crimes. Like, think about that. If I commit crimes, if I'm out there robbing banks and whatever, then yeah, I'm gonna be out there protesting with a mask on so they don't catch me from my last armed robbery that I committed. But yes, I'm going to be out there protesting because they're coming after me. But if you're a law-abiding citizen, why are you upset that they're giving more, police presence and stuff like that? So I think it has more to do with the fact that it's coming from President Trump than it actually has to do with law enforcement officers in the streets. And so, I just try to, like, when you see videos like the ones I just showed you, just try to find balance. Like I saw the one from ABC and I went and found immediately that other video from the guy that actually got shot and his perspective is completely different. But I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you guys think that what's going on in DC is justifiable versus, it being unjustifiable for the president to deploy the National Guard? And one last point I want to bring up, because this is going to, people will ask, is how is this different from LA versus DC when President Trump activated the National Guard here in LA? Well, Governor Newsom tried to push back against President Trump when they activated the National Guard for the ICE riots, but he was able to do it because under the clause for the president to get involved and deploy the National Guard, he has to be able to justify or show like there's some level of insurrection or chaos and riots, and that's what was going on. No matter how big or how small people want to say it doesn't matter. It was out of control, and the governor chose not to deploy it, and so the president kind of has the final say-so, and that's why he was able to do that here in California. But I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole any further. I want to move on because there's a lot of other different topics. But before we go on, like I said, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the video, share with all your friends. We trying to blow up around here, y'all. I'm trying to blow up. Matter of fact, I'm trying to become the governor of California, if y'all didn't realize that. Don't y'all want to get California back to the great state it was? I have a shirt over here. It's inside out, but talk about going back to Cali. Don't y'all want to come back to Cali because that's good leadership? Anyways, I digress. Let's move on. So one of the next topics I want to talk about is this sexual act that happened in Mexico. Now, I had been hearing about this, but I hadn't seen it. And when I saw it, it was hilarious because there were so many things that ran through my mind. And I almost felt like dirty watching it. I was like, man, I don't even feel like comfortable watching this. Like, I almost had to go repent and say, Lord, I promise you I'm not watching anything I'm not supposed to be watching. I promise you. Let me just show y'all the video and then we'll talk about it because this is actually quite hilarious. But anyways, let's watch. Boy, do I have so many questions. So here's my first thought. I'll get to how this is not appropriate, unacceptable for police officers. I'll get to that part in a minute. But the first question I have is like, I almost feel like she was trying to get caught because she making all this noise as if her window is not up. Like, did anybody catch that? Like her window was down. She's in a police car. She's in her uniform and she's making all this noise. It was almost as if she wanted to get caught. And so the backstory and context, she's a police officer in Mexico. She's obviously getting her swerve on in the car with another officer and she's super loud. And I guess she's married. She's married. I don't know if does she have kids? I don't know if she has kids or not. Yeah, it says her husband and daughter never want to see her again. Now, I don't know if that's true, but sounds like she's married and has a kid. And so this went viral. And so you remember we just had our recent viral moment here in the United States where we had the CEO that, got called out by Coldplay. And my man was looking like he was like a deer in headlights. I don't even know why. Again, I'm not justifying any one of their behavior. I don't know why my man just didn't play it off and just acted like nothing was going on. That's how he got caught because as soon as they panned to him, man was like this. Got caught was handing a cookie jar. But here's the point. I'm a police officer. And we do have to be professional. Whether you are a police officer here in California, whether you're a police officer in Mexico, it doesn't matter. We are held to a higher standard. What you do on your own time, what you do in the confines of your own personal time, whether it be your car, whether it be your house, like that's up to you. But we can't be doing this, especially in uniform. And the reason why this is so important, and this is what I want people to really see. When stuff like this happens, it doesn't just affect her and her family, even though that's going to be the biggest fallout from all of this is her and her family and the people that are closest to her. But it's so much more fallout from this because I'm a police officer in here in California. When people see this video, you can't even tell just by looking at her uniform. If we're looking at what I'm looking at the screen right now, just by looking at her uniform, you can't tell that she's a police officer in Mexico. One would easily assume that she's a police officer somewhere in the United States. And so when that happens is we automatically all get lumped in to the same bag and everybody says, see, look I told you so. These officers, they're not professional. They don't care about anybody but themselves. And these are the same ones that are out there trying to hold us to a high standard, but yet they don't have these whole high standards for themselves. They lump us all into the same. And we all know the reality is that there's more good officers than there are bad officers out there. But yet they're going to lump us all in the same batch just because of this female officer's decision to get her swerve on duty with the window down and make it seem like she was making a, OnlyFans video or whatever. She probably, never mind. I don't want to go there. I don't want to get censored. But the point is, the reality is that we have to be smarter than this. Like, I don't get it. We actually saw another video. I did a breakdown on a video a while back. I don't know if you guys remember this video. I'm going to show you guys the highlight of this video right now.
And welcome to The Factor Uncensored. We made it through the storms, thank goodness. Now, imagine how embarrassing it would be to be caught with your pants down while on the job. Officer Anthony Hare in San Diego has now resigned from his position. Another officer had to come to his rescue in 2023 after Officer Hare accidentally locked himself in the back seat of his squad car with a woman that he had had detained.
He's setting it up pretty well. I'm going to give you the backstory so we could just jump into his reaction when he gets his hand caught in the cookie jar. He's on patrol. There was an accident. He takes the girl, the witness or the I can't remember if she was a suspect. I think she was a suspect, but takes her. He's supposed to be taking her somewhere, transporting her. She's under arrest. So he's transporting her in the back seat. Now, somehow his camera and his GPS get turned off. All of a sudden, magically, out of thin air in 2025, must have been an EMP that all electronics just went down. So his stuff goes down, but then he ends up making a phone call later to his boss or his partner, say, hey, yo, look, I got locked in the car and I need you to come get me out. So then he tells his partner where he's at. That's where we're going to pick up the next part of this video when he gets out, because this is the kind of the funny part.
Another officer had to come to his rescue in 2023 after Officer Hare accidentally locked himself in the back seat of his squad car with a woman that he had detained. In Officer Hare's body camera footage, the detainee can be heard saying she was down to have sex, and she said it multiple times. Here's what happened next.
Don't say that right now. Don't say that right now because everything's being recorded right now. What's going on? Alright, sir, step out of the vehicle for me.
That is him getting out of the back of the car, and the woman is still back there. Both Hare and the detainee denied anything happened in the back seat. He says he was just checking on her. However, San Diego police found traces of semen on Hare's belt.
All right, so he gets there, and then you can see like his partner or supervisor has so many questions, but he's like choosing not to ask him all the questions just because he's like, shoot, like this dude, this fool right here. That's what he's probably thinking in his mind. The best part of all this, though, is like when he tries to explain his way out of it at the end of this. So let's watch this real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, open the door, and then as I came in like that, I was trying to wake her up. My feet wasn't this, my feet didn't get caught like that. And then when I was like waking her up, that's when I noticed that this door closed on me. And then that's when I was like frantic trying to open the door, but I know there's no door opener. And then from then she was able to. So I was like this majority of the time. I was trying to get her up because her face was right here. Okay. Right here, and then I was trying to like wake her up to get her up. And then next thing you know, I hear the door close on me. I was frantic. I was looking, and then that's when she started to kind of like, I guess, wake up or get dazed off, whatever. And then that's when I asked her like, hey, are you having a hard time breathing? She said, no. Do you need medics? No. I was like, okay, all right. Just stay right there. And then that's when I was trying to open the door. Okay. And then that's when I went on D2. All right, you can jump up.
I mean, I've heard of a lot of excuses. I've heard of a lot of explanations. But this just sounds like pure nonsense. Like, yeah, so see what happened was I was in here and I was trying to help her because, something went south. And so I just so happened to get both of my feet and both of my arms and my whole body into the back seat of the car. And then magically Casper came out of nowhere and shut the door and I got locked in, and see what happened was that's what happened. Like, come on, bro. Like, you're supposed to be a police officer. You're supposed to be smart. You're supposed to be a critical thinker. But that's why they say, don't think with that thing down there. They always say, don't think with that, because that will get you in trouble. And sure enough, it got this dude in trouble. Why do I bring this video back up and the girl and stuff like that? It's just because a lot of these things, man, like we gotta be smarter. Like, we gotta be smarter. And I don't even, I'm gonna go. There's one last video that I think I'm gonna tie into this because it's all on the same thing. Like I was actually gonna make this a separate video for this show, but it's like it all ties into the same. So there's another officer on TikTok who, I guess there was a crazy trend going around, and this trend was like, hey, if you didn't get cracked, you need to like make this video and talk about why you're mad you didn't get cracked. Now, this is probably me showing my age because I didn't know what get cracked meant. And I was like, dang, like I'm really starting to feel old now. Like I don't know what the lingo is. So I looked up what cracked means. And basically what cracked means is like you didn't have sex the night before. That's what it essentially means. At least that's what it kind of sounded like to me. So when somebody says I didn't get cracked, that means I didn't have sex the night before. So this is what this TikTok or this is what this officer did, or the video she made about not getting cracked and why it's going so viral.
A Precinct 5 constable deputy under an internal investigation after posting a TikTok that went viral. In this video, she suggests since she didn't get what she wanted the night before, everyone is getting a ticket. Fox 26's Jonathan Mejia in West Houston getting answers from the sheriff's office and speaking with residents there.
In a viral video that has since been deleted, we see a Precinct 5 constable deputy joining on a TikTok trend and having some fun, but that could cause her to lose her job. Don't stop yet, get it. In the video, you can see the deputy taking some notes, joining in on the TikTok trend and blurring out certain parts of her uniform, but she leaves her name visible to see. We saw other videos on her account where she's in uniform doing some TikTok trends. Her account has since deleted, and we spoke to some people here in the Precinct 5 area who tells us she's free to do whatever she wants on her personal time, but when she's representing the company and representing the law enforcement agency that she works for, she has to be more cautious.
I think what makes me, so unsettled about this is there are a lot of police officers that do phenomenal work, that utilize TikTok, Instagram, that utilize these social media platforms as a way to engage with the community and also just a way to show who they are as a person. And unfortunately, those officers who are doing good work and aren't doing anything egregious, they get bad reputations. They get called TikTok cops. Shoot, they've called me a TikTok cop before, which I can't stand it because it's like, what even is a TikTok cop? But when you see videos like this, it makes me upset because I'm like, this is not what we should be doing. This is not what being a TikTok, or I don't even want to say being a TikTok cop represents, but this is not what it's about. Like, again, I've said this before. Do things on your own time. It's not like, you can't have a life, but you got to be smart and be tasteful. Just because you blur the patches out on your uniform and you blur your badge out, it doesn't mean that you're not representing the entity or the agency that you work for. You still represent them, whether you like it or not. And that's one of the things that we signed up for. Like the moment you took the oath and you stood up there and said, hey, look, I promise to do this and that, all the other stuff. Like that was the moment that you said, hey, look, I have to realize that I have to be held to a higher standard. I have to make sure that I'm thinking beyond just what's right in front of my face. I have to watch my actions on and off of work. And when you do things like this and you're saying you're joining these viral or TikTok events or things that are going on, like you got to be smarter than that. Like it just doesn't make sense to me. So now you have the public outcry, and this is what the public was saying.
I think it's real inappropriate and disrespectful.
It's very unprofessional, you know what I'm saying? Like, you shouldn't be doing nothing like that. It's unprofessional.
We reached out to the Harris County Precinct 5 Constable's Office for a statement on this viral video that has since been deleted, and this is what they told us.
Our administration is aware and Internal Affairs has opened an investigation. We have no other comment at this time, end quote.
When you're professional, you're you know what I'm saying? Like, you talk a certain way. You carry yourself a certain way when you're in your work clothes. That's what you do outside of work. That's cool, but in work, you don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think she should have did that.
Does this make you like...
I low-key kind of want to hear what he sounds like when he's professional at work, just because I'm interested. But nonetheless, he's right and the other guy's right. When you are at work, you have to be professional. And even when you make these videos, now, not to say that you can't have your personality. Like back in the day when I was working on patrol, I had some videos that I did where I was dancing in my uniform, but it wasn't unprofessional. It wasn't distasteful. I was interacting with the community. I was getting to know the community, and it was a way for them to see my human side. But you don't show your human side beyond the badge by saying, hey, look, I didn't get cracked last night, so I'm about to go out there and write all these tickets. It doesn't work that way. It's not smart. And again, it causes damage to the badge in its entirety. So as I wrap this segment up, about talking about these officers, look, I love law enforcement. I think law enforcement is such a needed entity within our community, within our country. But we have to remember we are held to a higher standard. And that means that we have to be smart about all of the decisions we make, not just while you're on duty, but when you're off duty. And there's nothing wrong to join certain trends that are going viral, but make sure you're choosing the right trends. Make sure that if you are having a relationship with somebody, make sure you're doing it when you're not on duty. And just be wholesome. Like, again, we're human. And I'm trying to sit here and say that we all got to be perfect, because that's impossible. But we have to make sure that we're smart, because it damages the reputation that we've been trying to rebuild. And over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, the reputation of law enforcement has been damaged so much, and we're already working uphill battle. And it's situations like this that don't make it easier. So, anyways, I think I beat. What does it say? You beat a dead horse? I think I beat a dead horse with this one. Let's move on to the next topic. All right. So the next topic I want to talk about is this viral video with this influencer named Nick Fuentes. Now, Nick Fuentes, he's an influencer. Now, I've never really followed Nick Fuentes before. I just saw this viral video pop up. And one of the things I must say before we actually even get to the video, but when my boy, the Officer Tatum, when he calls you a racist, that's saying something. Because Brandon don't really call nobody a racist. I mean, Brandon is... And Brandon is my boy, it's my dog, and we agree on a lot of things. And he's a very, very conservative guy. But when he calls you a racist, that's saying something. Let's actually watch the video and see what I'm talking about. And let's break this down, because there's a lot to unpack here. It's a very, very viral segment that's going right now. Let's check it out.
I think black people are not irredeemable, but there just needs to be brutal honesty. It's like, look, these black people are really struggling, and they're turning into these maniacs. It seems like they don't do anything right. They're obnoxious, they're rude, they're inconsiderate, aggressive, cruel, and, look, nobody hates black people for being black. If there are people like that, I think that's exceedingly rare, and I don't consider myself one of them. The reason that people have negative attitudes about black people is because most people's interactions with black people are negative.
Okay, full stop. First and foremost, yeah, that's one of the most racist things you can say. Like, just being blunt. It's one of the most racist things you can say. But, beyond just what you can say is like, tell me how you really feel. And those are the people that we should be worried about, because what he actually is saying is scary, because he actually really believes this stuff. Before I get into why this is so wrong, every single race, every single culture, I would say, has a segment of their community that does not represent the entirety of the community. There are a lot of great black people around this world, around our country, that have done amazing things. A majority of black people are like this. But just because that's not what you see doesn't mean that's not what the reality is. And the same could be said for every other race: white people, Asian people, Hispanic people. So you see certain things, or your sentiment now becomes shaped and forged based on what you see and feel. That's an issue. That's an issue there. But you know what? It's like, I can't even, number one is he's ignorant, he's racist. And I can't even begin to describe how what he's saying is so false. But I also can't even blame him in this sense. And just stick with me for a second. You see, the society we live in now in 2025, what is going on is we are so ingrained in our own echo chambers. The algorithms, the things that you watch, the things you listen to, they are designed and made to feed you more of the same content that you engage with. Not necessarily what you like, but what you engage with. And they're going to give you more and more and more of that. And what begins to happen is when you get caught and lost in this echo chamber, it's hard to see what's on the other side of it. And it's not just what's going on digital media like social media, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, but it also happens in the mainstream. And there's also an agenda behind mainstream media. I've told police officers this for years, and this is what I mean. One of the biggest enemies that the black community has and the police officer has is the same enemy, and we don't even realize it. While the black community and policing are fighting each other, we don't even realize that we have a common enemy. Well, what is that common enemy, you might ask? It's mainstream media. Well, how is it mainstream media? Well, the reason it's mainstream media is because a lot of times mainstream media wants to paint and portray law enforcement like we're the devil, like we're the worst thing since sliced bread, we're the worst system in America, the most oppressive system in America, and that's how it tries to show us without showing all the great things we do. Well, what mainstream also does is it gets caught up a lot of times is showing the negative stuff behind the black community or minority community. It's not just black, it's other communities, but they like to show the rioting, the protests, the anger, the nonsense, the looting. They show a lot of that as opposed to a lot of the good stuff that's going on within the community. So over time, what starts to happen is you, the viewer, you, the consumer, starts to develop this perception or this false reality of how you perceive a certain sector of the population, all based on what you're seeing and consuming, not based on your lived experiences or reactions with people in real time. And it's not to say that you haven't had a negative experience with somebody in real time or personal, and here's another example of that. I have friends of mine in the past that would say, I hate cops. And I would be like, okay, cool. Tell me why you hate cops. Well, there's no good cops out there. And so I'm like, okay, there's no good cops. Well, let me ask you this question. Do you follow any police officer pages? No, I do not. Do you have any police officers in your life? No, I do not. Have you ever befriended any police officers online, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram? No, I have not. So I would then ask the follow-up question. Well, if you don't have any police officers as friends in real life, if you don't follow any police officer pages on digital media like Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok, if you're not involved in any groups involving police officers, would you say that in all of those groups I just mentioned that there's no good police officers? They're like, well, I can't answer that question. I said, well, why not? Because I don't know. So my point is, and my follow-up point to them is this. I said, just because you may not have interacted with them or just because you may not have seen them, does that mean that they don't exist? Of course they exist, but you are surrounded by what you acquire, what you are subscribed to. That's how the algorithms work. So when Nick says stuff like this, it's ignorant, and it continues to perpetuate this divisiveness in our communities and in our country that is making people so polarizing. And this is, it's frustrating and it upsets me on so many different levels because there are so many wholesome people in our communities, in the black community, in the white community, in the Asian community, the Hispanic community, you name it. But you got ignorant people like this guy who I believe is truly a racist and it says a racist comment like this, and yet he has the audacity to really believe what he's saying. It's crazy. Let's watch a little bit more of what he was saying.
Like that's their interaction is they are a waiter and they wait on a black table and the black people don't tip. Rude. Like that's most people's interactions. It's stuff like that. They go to the DMV and they see a black person behind the counter and they say, oh, here we go. And the person's rude. Now, it just goes to show people are not racist. It goes to show people don't like people that are rude. That people don't, it's unpleasant. People want to be treated with consideration and respect.
You catch what he did there? He was getting ready to say, people don't like black people, but people don't like people who are rude. That's what he was trying to say, but let's continue to watch.
People want to be treated with consideration and respect. And it is true that black people are, in this day and age, unfortunately, seem to have very low moral character. It's not even just the violence, although the violence is pretty striking. If you live your life and you know that you're going to be mugged by black people, it kind of colors your opinion or perception of black people, wouldn't you say?
Man, this is so infuriating on so many levels because I'm black. So you're basically saying that I don't have a high moral standard or character for myself. But then his pushback argument to me would be like, well, you're the exception. And it's like, no, that's so freaking ridiculous that based on the color of my skin, you automatically think of me a certain type of way. And that right there is what you call racism. That pure. Now, again, I'm glad that he's saying this because I know how his true heart is. I'd rather him say it out loud than to act one way but really feel another way. So I'm glad that he's saying it, but it's also disheartening to know that he's just one person. How many other people probably think this way? So we got to be careful. We got to be able to check ourselves and realize that every single population has people within their race that we wouldn't claim. Like there are certain people that we wouldn't claim. I think, was it Eddie Murphy or I can't remember who it was. It was Eddie Murphy or somebody had a funny, or Chris Rock had a funny segment about this whole idea. But there are certain people within communities that nobody wants to claim, but it doesn't represent an entirety of a population of people. And now he has a mic and megaphone and he can blast this out to the masses, and a lot of people can get behind him and say, see, he's saying, this is how I feel. And that is what's scary. You know, my kids are now they're mixed, you know, they're half black, a quarter Filipino, a quarter Hispanic, but I don't want somebody feeling this way towards my kids. It's ignorant. But this is the other side of the coin. And this is where I want to challenge people. And this next statement is not geared towards any sector of our population, but just challenging people in general. This is why we should uphold a certain level of standards for ourselves, because you never want to get to a point where people have a perceived opinion about you because of how you react or how you respond in certain situations. And it's not about your race. In my personal opinion, as a believer in Christ, it's about who I am in him. It's about what I represent for the kingdom of God. So I want to, be a good guy. I want to be nice and compassionate and merciful and all those things, not because I want to represent black people really well, but because I want to represent who my father is, who I believe my father is in heaven. That's what it really comes down to, not for the sake of just saying, I want to be a good person because I'm black. So that's why we should be good humans, not because we're trying to represent and be somebody we're not. No, be who you are, because that's what you're called to be. Now, let me play a little bit more of his ignorance real quick, and then we're going to move on to the next subject, because I'm gonna blow a gasket if I continue to listen to him. But let's listen a little bit more.
Most part, it's negative, and sometimes extremely negative. Like I could get a gun in my face, That's a problem. And people go, well, you are just loaded up with hatred and racism. It's like, I'm really not. I'm a really friendly person. I'm a really polite, friendly person. I give everybody a chance. But if I'm someplace and I see some black person walking in with their pants sagging and they can't articulate what their problem is or what they need, and they're rude and they're aggressive, and I'm in fear for my life, I have a problem with all of that. And people go, and these black people go, well, you're racist. It's like, no, I just hate inconsiderate behavior.
I truly just think it's people like him that give the extreme other side so much ammunition as to why they feel the way they do. Because and when I say people on the other side, I'm talking left and right now. So obviously, he's already claimed that he's more on the conservative lens of things, but there's a lot of conservatives that are conservative, not based on race, but based on from a fiscal standpoint, from a biblical standpoint, and from a moral standpoint, as of an old traditional values. But those people get lumped into the same category as people like Nick Fuentes, as being this super extreme racist person. And because of that, it causes more division within the party, because now on the left side of things, you have people on the left side that says the party, or the Republican Party, the Conservative Party, is extremely racist because they view that party as people like Nick Fuentes. And it gives them ammunition because they can go back and say, well, look what he says. And what he's saying is just a microcosm of what everybody else is believing on the right side. And so you therefore belong to a conservative Republican Party, which, mind you, I'm running as an independent candidate. So I'm talking to you as an independent right now, saying, hey, look, I'm trying to break away from these political systems and these agendas that they have. The point being, though, is that when you have racist people like him, it's hard for people to break away and say, you know what, he's an anomaly. He's somebody that's in his own league of his own, and not everybody thinks that way, which I know that to be true, because I know as a police officer that there's so many good police officers, and I don't buy into the idea that one police officer represents everybody else, just like I don't believe that Nick Fuentes represents everybody. But it's people like Nick Fuentes that cause people to say oh, they're all racist, which, by the way, what's interesting is I want to know, Fuentes, the last name Fuentes, I thought that was not, is that a Caucasian last name? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and don't crucify me for asking, is Fuentes, but it sounds like he may not necessarily be completely white in and white out, with the last name Fuentes. I could be wrong. But the point is that this right here is stuff that is wrong, completely wrong, should be called out. And I don't even know why we even give people like this airtime. Now, obviously, I'm giving them airtime only because I want to call out how terrible this guy is and how wrong he is. But at the same time, I want to challenge the viewers and the listeners, whoever's listening to this. This is why we should always, no matter what race you are, we should always strive to be a good example to everybody. So that way, nobody could ever try to put you into a category other than, man, that's a good person. That's a good human being right there. That's a good brother. That's a good sister. Like, that's what it should be about, not based on whether you're black, you're white, or anything like that, because I know what I'm capable of. I know who I am through Christ. And so at the end of the day, that's all that matters. But oh man, I want to know what you guys think about this. Like, tell me what you guys think, like, about what he's saying and his opinion about the black culture. I mean, obviously you guys heard my opinion. So the last thing I want to talk about today is some of the ICE crackdowns that have been going on, not only just in California, but across our country. And there's a lot of interesting information that I discovered when I was doing more research on what's really going on. Now, I did do a podcast episode on ICE a few months back, and if you guys want to go look at that link, just click this link right here. It's in the bio, or not in the bio, but somewhere over here. But look at that because you'll get a little bit more insight as to what's going on with ICE. But there's been more controversy brought up because it seems like ICE and DHS is going into places like Home Depot or in front of Home Depot to apprehend people. And there's a lot of people that aren't really feeling it. Let's just watch this video real quick and we'll kind of break it down.
Fox News exclusively embedding with Customs and Border Protection for an immigration raid in Los Angeles. DHS is honing in on a particular neighborhood where it says an infamous gang was formed. Matt Finn is live from LA with more on this story. Hey, Matt.
Hi, Jackie. It was called Operation Trojan Horse, and DHS tells us it was the first time they used unmarked rental trucks during an immigration enforcement here in Los Angeles. DHS drove those trucks into a parking lot of a Home Depot near MacArthur Park. One of the Border Patrol drivers apparently did pose as someone looking for work, but then immigration agents came out of the trucks and dozens of people scattered. 16 people were taken into custody. We are working on confirming their information right now. Now, agents got in and out in a matter of minutes. DHS says they did surveillance of this area prior, and they used the rental trucks because they claim there's too many scouts in this area. Now, I talked with Border Patrol Chief Greg Bavino and asked for his response to critics who say enforcements like this are just targeting people looking for work.
And when we look at the damage that unmitigated immigration has caused to this country, look at the Jacqueline Nungares and the Kate Steinleys and all those that have been hurt, maimed, and killed by illegal aliens. I think they need to redirect their attention and maybe think a little harder before they say things like that.
All right. So I think the first question that we have to start with is this. Do we think that the United States of America should have secure borders? Yes or no? Let's start there. Do we truly believe that the United States of America, which in my personal opinion, one of the greatest countries in this world, do we think that we should have secure borders? And if the answer to that is yes, then I think that we all can agree that people being deported or being held accountable is not completely wrong. I think we could start there. If your answer is no, then my challenge to you is go and look and really do research to other countries to see what happens when you don't have secure borders and ask yourself the question, are you willing to live that way? Now, I'm going to err on the side of the majority in this one because a majority from polling, whether you're Democrat or independent or Republican, a majority of polling shows that most people want secure borders. So now it comes down to how do we get these borders secure? Now, we have to understand something first and foremost. ICE was created for a reason. The role that ICE plays within the United States is to go out there and hold people accountable as it relates to immigration. People that come over here unlawfully. If you come to the United States unlawfully, there is systems and protocols in place that will hold you accountable for that, which ultimately means they either give you a chance to get your citizenship and get your papers, or you are deported. And so that system was existent before President Trump was in office. And this is not me defending President Trump or anything what's going on in the administration. Let me be clear, because I'm trying to make this as not political as I can, so that way we can just understand the whole subject in and of itself. But that ICE was existent well before President Trump came into office. So we have to understand contextually how we got to where we are now. And the only way we can understand that is to understand where we're coming from. The last administration was very, very lax and lenient as it related to immigration enforcement. That means that the amount of people that they were deporting and the amount of enforcement that they were doing for those who were undocumented went well below what it was before that. Well, the question becomes then is, well, what was it before that? Well, yeah, obviously President Trump had a term before President Biden, but here's some interesting facts that I think we should notate, because I think it really paints a different picture on how we watch or we understand immigration. So I'm going to give you a did you know, because this did you know is very, very shocking. So did you know that President Obama deported 3 million people over 2 terms, more than any other modern president? Now, that was shocking to me because it never really gets talked about. And again, take the politics out of it. I don't care if you're on the Democratic side or the Republican side. Take that out of it for just 1 minute and just listen and understand the facts as we know it. It actually says that in 2013 alone, over 438,000 people were deported. Now, it does say that he focused on criminal threats to national security and recent border closures. Now, President Trump, he has deported fewer. So he's deported over 800,000 undocumented people within his first term. So that's, a term is 4 years. So 800,000 people over 4 years. I don't know what the math is on that, but it's a lot less than what President Obama deported in 1 term. So why is that even relevant? Well, I think it's relevant because number one is, every year that goes on, the more and more digital media becomes more prevalent, like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. The more in your face it is, it actually causes more of a sensational or an emotional rise out of the people. So the more you see things going on, the more you start feeling some type of way about it. You have to realize when Obama was in his presidency, we had social media, but it wasn't what it's like now. I mean, you had people that were first just barely getting on it. They didn't really understand it that much. So it wasn't as in their face as it is now. The second thing is the style between the way President Trump operates and the way President Obama operates, completely different. President Obama, whether you like him or not, he was much more diplomatic, where President Trump says, this is what's going to happen, this is what I'm going to do, and that's done. So because of that, and because of the sentiment behind people feel one way or the other about these different people, that plays into how people feel as it regards to immigration. So that being said, is what's going on right now in front of Home Depot, Target, wherever, is it right or is it wrong? Now, I've been saying from day one that I think that immigration, or I think that, being firm and tough on immigration, I think it is a good thing. I truly believe in safe borders for many reasons. Number one is my father-in-law, he was an immigrant, came over here from the Philippines. He had to go through a process. He had to get his paperwork. He had to take tests. He had to learn all sorts of different things just to become a U.S. citizen. And it was difficult, but he did it. So I don't believe that people that come over here, the wrong way, illegally, and bypass all that stuff, I don't think it's fair to those that try to do it the right way. But as a Christian man myself, I do believe that there is a place for grace and compassion. And I do believe most people come here because they're trying to have a better quality of life. And so for those people that are here, what we need to do is we need to learn how to get them through the process, get it streamlined. And if they don't do what they're supposed to be doing, then let's be tough on them and let's get them deported back to their country. Give them the opportunity. If they don't fulfill their part of it, get them back to the country. We have to start looking at this without having such an emotional appeal to the discussion at hand. Like, we have to remove the people like President Trump, President Obama. Like, let's remove all that and let's actually focus on the concepts themselves. And I think when we start to focus on the concepts themselves, that's how we're going to start to find better solutions. Another example of this is this topic right here is sanctuary states. So I didn't even understand what a sanctuary state was until I started looking more into it. What sanctuary laws were put into place for was to essentially allow people to go and report certain crimes without fear of being deported. So let's say I'm a legal immigrant and there's a crime that occurs. Because of sanctuary laws in place, I can report the crime without the local law enforcement agencies having to report me to ICE as being a legal immigrant. So that's what it was allegedly put in place for. Now, I have my own personal reasoning. I think that was one of the reasons, but I also think there was many other reasons why those sanctuary laws were put into place. But there were unintended consequences that also came from that. The unintended consequence is now you don't have local law enforcement working with federal law enforcement. That's a problem. And here's why it's a problem. You see, let's just say I'm an illegal immigrant, like I just said. And let's just say I'm a violent criminal and I went out there and committed a violent crime. So I go down there, I go and get booked at the local county jail and in a place where there's sanctuary laws that are present. And because these sanctuary laws, once I'm booked and once, my friend comes and posts bail, the local law enforcement will not call ICE and say, hey, look, the guy that you've been looking for who's an illegal immigrant who just committed a violent crime, he's here at our county jail, come pick him up. They won't do that. What they'll say is, oh, you post bail, you can go out there. ICE is going to have to go out there and find you on the street. Well, why does that become an issue? Well, it becomes an issue now because now ICE, because they can't go to the local jail and pick you up, they're going to go to your graduations, they're going to go to Home Depot, they're going to go all these other places to try to find you because they didn't hold you at the local county jail. So I believe that we have to start re-looking and rethinking these sanctuary laws and policies because there's a lot of unintended consequences and is leading to this bad representation of what's going on as they're trying to enforce immigration laws. Now, I don't believe it's all good, and I do believe that there are some sad things going on. I have a heart, and if I have family members that are here illegally and I saw them being deported, I would be dumb or stupid to say that it wouldn't make me feel some type of way. Of course it is. I have friends of mine, personal friends of mine that I know right now who are not here lawfully, and they're trying to go through the process. They're trying to get their immigration stuff worked out, but they are in fear. So I do have a heart to have compassion for that. And I pray that they don't get deported, but that doesn't rid the fact that we shouldn't have accountability. Like accountability is a good thing. Like I look at it like this with my kids. I hate to punish my kids. I hate seeing them suffer if I have to spank them or whatever it may be. But it doesn't mean that I don't do it because I don't like to see it. No, I do it because I know that that's what's best for them. I know that's what's best for the household. And I think that's how we have to start looking at this piece. Let's look at a couple more segments from this topic, and then we're going to wrap this show up.
Los Angeles officials say they are considering all legal options following this week's controversial immigration raid dubbed Operation Trojan Horse. Federal agents seen jumping out of this Penske rental truck outside of a Home Depot. It was a surprise for day laborers who were out looking for work. More than a dozen arrested. These ICE crackdowns come with California already experiencing a building boom and a tight labor market. In tonight's Weekend Journal, CBS's Joy Benedict reports that dynamic threatens to deepen workforce shortages and drive up costs.
It's a sound heard in many neighborhoods, as construction is big business in California. But on some job sites, the pool of workers is looking a little small. Manuel Florido is working this site in Ontario. Although he's documented, he says many of his co-workers are not. He says they're not showing up to work. Across the street and 2 stories up, this worker says they have a fifth of the people on this job as they usually do. He admits he's scared of recent raids. But he goes on to say he is more afraid of not being able to support his family.
Any small disruption in the labor markets could be very impactful to construction in California.
Tim Kawahara is the executive director of the UCLA Ziman Center for Real Estate. He says California has the highest percentage of immigrant construction workers in the nation.
In California, 41% of construction workers are immigrants. Undoubtedly, some of those workers are undocumented.
I want to pause right there because I don't know if you really quite understand what he's saying. So 41% of our labor workers, like in construction sites, are illegal immigrants. Now, hold that thought for a second, because let's say you're somebody that's like on the side of the fence that's like, man, no, I don't care. They need to go and do it the right way. They need to take their time and get in the back of the line just like everybody else. Because I have a whole bunch of people that say that. And you know what? Let's just say, yeah, you're right, okay? But here's what you are missing is our workforce is made up of a lot of illegal immigrants that are doing a lot of the work that, if I'm being quite honest, a lot of other people don't want to do. Number one. So like we're talking about construction, we're talking about maintenance and all sorts of different things. So if we lose them, not only is it going to make the quality of life in our society much worse, but who's going to pick up those jobs? So when we talk about immigration and how we can be better on it. That's why I said we got to be way more strategic about this. This is not just about going out there and rallying up everybody and getting them out of there, because that is not going to help us out either. We got to be way more strategic and find other ways that we can do it. So my personal opinion, like I said, those people that are already here illegally, but they haven't been committing any violent crimes, they've shown that they are contributing members to society, give them a time limit. Say, hey, look, we're going to give you a year and a half or whatever it may be to get your stuff figured out. And if you can't get it figured out in this year and a half or whatever time limit that is, don't be surprised when we come and scoop you up and now you got to be deported, because now it puts everybody on notice. It puts that person on notice. So now they can live in a little bit less fear and say, okay, cool. Like, I have a time limit. I'm going to get it worked out and all this other stuff. I'm going to make sure I'm still contributing member of society. I'm not going to go out there and break and violate all these other laws, but I'm also going to be encouraged to get it done. Now they're not living in fear, and now they can continue to work and do whatever they're doing to stimulate our economy while at the same time trying to get their paperwork figured out. But then once that time is over, now you can easily justify and say, hey, look, we're going to go out there and scoop you up. We gave you a year and a half. You didn't do it, bro. You got to go. That, I think, is a way more balanced approach, is not as polarizing, and I think a lot more people would get behind that. It sends a clear message to everybody. So for those of you, again, like I said, they say, oh, no, everybody has to get to the back of the line. You have to slow down. You got to slow down in thinking that way, because you don't understand it. You don't realize that it's going to hurt the economy extremely, and then you are ultimately going to be impacted by that. There's a lot of polarizations that go on, especially politically speaking. And as somebody who's getting in the governor's race and running, I'm seeing it on a much larger scale. That's why I think we got to stay more balanced. We got to stay more nuanced and say, hey, look, like, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. How do we get it the right way? So, man, there's been a lot of interesting topics today. I covered a lot. This is going to probably be the style in which you will start seeing more videos coming from me. So if you guys like this, let me know, because we want to give you guys more of this. And so we will. A few things I want you to notate is, number one, I will continue to do police breakdowns. I will always do that. It's in my DNA. I'm a police officer. I just got to make sure I'm wise in how I do it, because your boy will get shadow banned. They'll try to give me all these docs and all this other stuff. So I got to be careful, but I will continue to give you that. And I'm going to continue to give you a lot of the content that you actually originally came to my channel for, but we're going to broaden our approach up just because there's so much going on in our world. And I think most of you guys that come to me, you guys came to me because you believe that I'm going to give you a fair, unbiased approach and opinion on what I think what's going on from a cultural perspective. So with that being said, I love you guys. I appreciate you. Do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, give me a comment below. And if you guys haven't even followed your boy on any other platforms, make sure y'all go follow your boy. With that being said, I'll see you on the next episode. Take care and God bless.